Hello guys and welcome. This is Hisham. So welcome to a new tutorial. So I'm gonna be creating this counter project in React. It's a counter project. So when I click, it consists of three buttons: plus, recent, and minus. And then when I click on the plus button, it's gonna increment the count by one. And then when I click on minus, it's gonna decrement the number by one, as you can see, and then resets the count to 0. So I'm gonna be using codesandbox.io. So just make sure you go to this website. You can click on create sandbox, and then it's gonna and then open a new React project. So in here you can come to source, new file. You can click on that, and then you can create your file. So I already did. I made counter.jsx, which is a React file, which I'm gonna open right now. So just import React from React, and then you can create your function components. So it's counter, and then just make sure you export default counter. Then go to app.js, and then make sure you import your function counter. So import counter from counter, okay? And then make sure you include it here so you can see it. Counter, and then you close it. Alright, so here in H1, I'm just gonna type in state hook using useState. Go ahead and save that. All right. So in my counter, in order to use useState, I have to import it too from React. So useState. Okay. All right. So in my function, let's first console log useState, and let's see what we get. Oops. So as you can see here in the console, it does return an array. You see double brackets, and then it returns undefined, which is and does I'm sorry. So it's an array of a variable, which is the initial state. It says undefined because I have not in here in console.log useState, I did not give it any value. So if I give it a value of 0, which is the initial state, I get 0 here. So since this is an array, I'm gonna be using destructing syntax to create a initial count variable, and then set initial count method, and this one equals useState. So if you want to learn more about destructing syntax, just make sure you Google it, destructing syntax in JavaScript. The only thing that you need to remember, okay, hold on, let me console log again. Console.log useState again. So as you can see here, because it's an array, and it does consist of two properties. The first one is the initial state. In this case, it says undefined. So this one holds the index of 0, and then the method, which is a function. So as you can see, so the index 0, and then here index 1. So this function, when you provoke this function, it will update the state of the initial state of the undefined. Let's give it a value here of 0, or any number. Let's give it 100. So it does return, in the index 0, it does return 100, which is the initial state, and then we gave it the value of 100 here. and then a function. And since this is an array, it's very important that you keep the make sure you keep the index 0. You can't change them, okay? So like in this case, the initial count is the initial state, which has the value of 100, okay? All right, so const initial count set initial count equals useState. Since this is a counter, I'm gonna give the initial state a value of 0, okay? And then what you need to do, what it says, we have to render it. So we have to include it here. You have to include it in curly brackets, double curly brackets, and then initial count, and then it's gonna show here, okay? So if I change 0, if I change it from a number to a string, let's say counter, it's gonna say counters here. It's gonna show. All right, so let's fix it. Let's give it a value of 0. All right. Okay, so in my styles.css, I already I made 3 classes, so just to save time, so I'm gonna make sure to include them here. So if you're using Mac, you can click on Option and then click in each button, so that way you can only type in one time, and then it's gonna show in the 3 buttons. All right, so I'm gonna include my class, which is btn. Okay, I do have 2 classes. One is button left, which is this button right here, the left, which is the plus, and then right, it's the minus button. So in the plus, I'm gonna include my second class, which is btn left. Okay, and in the minus button, which is the right, I'm going to include my class, which is btn dash right. All right, so as you can see, right now we gave it a hard value of 0. So even if I click, it does not update, even if I click on any button. So let's fix the plus button first. So on click, I want to provoke this function. I'm going to call it handle increase. Okay, so I'm going to come here in my function components. I'm going to create my handle increase function. Okay, so what I need to do every time I click on plus, I'm calling this handle increase function. This needs to be camel case. Okay. So what I need to do, I need to call this method set initial count, which going to update the initial count. Okay. So set initial count, and then the method set initial count by itself, it takes a function. So what I want to do, I want to grab the previous value, whatever the previous value is, and then I'm going to return previous value plus 1. Okay, it seems I have an error here on this function. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay, so function. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to grab my previous value, which is the value of the initial count, whatever the value is. In this case, it's 0, and I want to return my previous value plus 1. So in this case, the previous value is 0. So when I click on plus, I'm going to provoke handle increase function, which is going to call the method set initial count, and then the set initial count method is gonna call a anonymous function, and it's gonna grab the previous value. In this case it's 0, and then it's gonna add 1 to it. So if I click on plus, it's gonna keep incrementing by 1. Okay, all right, so that's good. So as of right now, let's work on the reset. So I'm gonna come to my reset button and then type in on click. So every time I click on a reset button, I'm gonna call this function, which I named handle reset function handle reset. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna call my method set initial count. Not set interval. Set initial count, and then here simply I'm gonna update my initial count. Remember, so every time you call the set initial count, the output of the set initial count, it's going to be the value of initial count. So the set initial count method updates the value of initial count. So here I'm just gonna give it the value of 0. Save, and then as you can see, when I click plus, it does increment by 1. When I click on reset, it does reset the count to 0. Okay, which is right here. All right, our last button, on click. Whenever I click the minus button, I want to call the function handle. Let me name it decrease. Okay, and then I'm gonna create my function. Okay, all right, so when I click, like in this case, when I click on plus, the value of initial count, in this case it's 5. Okay, but when I click on minus, what I want to do, I want to call my set initial count method. Okay, why I keep doing this? Set initial count, and you can either type in function, it's anonymous function, or in ES6 you can use the fat arrow. So you can do curly brackets, curly brace it, and then so this is called fat arrow function. So all right, so what I want to do, I'm gonna pass in, I'm gonna grab the value of initial count, and as you can see, initial count right now equals 5. So I want to grab that initial count, and I want to return the value of initial count minus 1. So if I click on minus, it's gonna decrement by 1. So okay, so just to recap, so every time I click on the minus button, which is this one, is gonna call a function handle decrease, which is right here, and then handle decrease, it's gonna call the method set initial, and by its turn it will grab the value of initial count, which is in H3, which is here, the output, and it's gonna subtract 1 to it. Alright, so I hope you guys learned something new in this tutorial. Please make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and write a comment. If you have any question, make sure you include it in the comments below, and I'll make sure to answer your question or questions. Thank you so much, and you have a blessed day.